This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. We come to you every day with short business episodes, short private equity episodes. We try and make sure that you're learning, that we're learning, that you're entertained some, and a lot more. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by someone who lives at the intersection of healthcare and private equity. He's written a book. He's the author of a book called Dr. Deals. He's founded a firm called Healthcare Contract. He's a healthcare valuation expert. And more than any of that, he's a truly good person with terrific integrity and a pleasure to visit with and a pleasure to work with. Nick, we've got Nick Newsad with us. Nicholas, can I ask you to take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've built with Health Contract and so forth?
Absolutely. Thank you, Scott. So I'm Nick Newsad from healthcontract.com. I operate a national healthcare valuation practice from Denver, Colorado. I often get called in to work on big, hairy healthcare deals in cases that some of the other experts don't want to work on. Recently released the second edition of my book, Dr. Deals, which was about 10 years old. That's now an audiobook that you can get on iTunes and Audible. And Dr. Deals is all about doing business deals with doctors in the U.S., both in terms of hospitals and private equity firms.
Thank you. And take a second. When you talk about Dr. Deals, what's the state of Dr. Deals today? What are you seeing out there? Is it accelerating again? Is it slowing down? Give us a sense of what you're seeing out there, Nick.
Well, the PPM industry, the physician practice management company industry, is just riddled with challenges right now. So big PPMs like Team Health and Envision would obviously be difficult to sell right now based on all the issues they've been having. But even down at the smaller levels, sellers are having difficulty selling profitable PPMs to certain types of strategic buyers like not-for-profit health systems. I've worked on multiple deals. I'm sure you have too, Scott, where we go down the road with a not-for-profit health system buyer and we'll work on a deal for well over a year. And then they decide not to move forward for whatever reason. So then we have to start all over again. So aside from a few notable exceptions like Kaiser and HCA, which are going to do lots of deals in the next few years, from where I sit, I just don't see the appetite on the buy side, especially not from the not-for-profit health systems to do big PPM acquisitions. I look at what's been going on with Novant Health and Geisinger and Cone Health, and these are just not emblematic of buyers of very valuable PPMs that have been built up and developed. So looking at the tea leaves, beyond more secondary fund deals between PE firms, I'm predicting more non-traditional strategic buyers. AmerisourceBergen is a great example. They acquired One Oncology last year. Cardinal Health just announced they're going to buy an integrated oncology network last month. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some other strategic buyers jump in the mix.
Now, that's a fascinating evolution, isn't it? We haven't traditionally seen the Cardinal Health of the world, the AmerisourceBergens of the world jump into this business. Where's private equity on it today? I know there's been some slowdown in the amount of bolt-on deals with sort of tough margins and higher debt costs. Is that starting to bounce back, or what do you see out there as a very specialty specific?
I think it's specialty specific. So I don't see a lot of difficulty with bolt-ons or getting your initial platform company up, but I am seeing difficulty with trying to unload these platforms, 5, 7 years in.
And when will that start to change, do you think?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Stryker or Alcon or Baxter got in the game, some other non-traditional strategic buyers. I wouldn't be surprised if they started selling these platform companies, these PPMs between funds, advisor-led secondaries or other secondary funds, continuation funds.
Yes, more and more of continuation funds. Could you explain to the audience, for those that aren't as knowledgeable, what a continuation fund looks like and talk about that for a second?
So a continuation fund is a fund created for the purpose of buying ownership interests from other private equity funds. So there's this whole market called the secondary market, which is really meant to replace, normally you have a strategic buyer who would come in and take a business off a private equity firm's hands, And just because of the nuances of the industry, we have so much money floating around and so much money in funds, it's actually a lot easier just to sell a business interest from one fund to another fund, whether under the same firm, which we call an advisor-led secondary, or at another firm.
Thank you. When you look at the next year, Nicholas, what are you most focused on, excited about? What excites you about coming up? What are you most focused on, excited about?
Well, beyond PPM deals, I think we're just scratching the surface of the market for data licensing deals in healthcare. Providers, physician practices, hospitals, labs, they've been collecting healthcare data for 20 years now in EMRs and other systems. And they're just now actively starting to license that data, de-identified data for research to big pharma and big medical device companies. So cancer data is all the rage now, but the autoimmune diseases are probably going to be the next big wave, followed by cardiology and psychiatry. And those are really fun deals to work on. You just do not have the downside risk on licensing deals like you have on big multi-million and multi-billion dollar M&A deals. So the future of my profession, the healthcare valuation profession, is probably going to be a lot of intangible asset and intellectual property licensing deals.
Thank you. And talk about starting your firm, when you started it. What was that like? Give us a sense of that.
Oh, it's been a 3.5 year journey. So this firm was actually started, healthcontract.com was started with the intent of creating contract management systems to replace a company that was going out of business at the time 3 years ago. And we just had a lot of resistance to try to come in and especially in the sales side, we were trying to sell to 5 or 6 different departments inside of hospitals. And it's hard to get 5 or 6 department heads to agree. So we still own this healthcare contract management system, but I've thrown us full bore back into healthcare valuation, and that's chugging along pretty well.
And any business advice that you would give to people founding businesses, driving businesses, and any sort of core thoughts? And I'm going to ask you any advice for physicians and practices for looking at the market. So first, any advice that you'd give to business founders, people trying to become entrepreneurs, any thoughts there? And then let's talk about any advice to physicians considering a process.
Well, I would challenge ambitious young professionals, both entrepreneurs and physicians, to think of, leadership and being influential is being more important than just having some sort of command and control type of position, whether it's a company you own or a bigger company. I don't think having employees to do the work should necessarily be the goal. But being influential is really powerful, no matter who you are. I've seen folks with really deep expert knowledge and great communication skills who can go into a meeting with a CEO of a company and convince the CEO to make a major change in their company. So there's lots of influential people out there who are have deep knowledge in their expert area, and they're really great communicators. And I think that is something to aspire to more so than some of the other things that people seem to aspire to.
I think that's just brilliant, and thank you. And talk about when physicians are evaluating options, they a practice, a group, how should they think about things? Give us some thoughts there.
That's a great question. So, we have a whole new generation of physicians coming up now, and they're in a very different environment than it was 20 or 30 years ago. So I had a young gastroenterologist call me a few months ago, and he said, I got this compensation to collections offer where an employer has offered me a percentage of collections, and I have no idea whether this is a good offer or not. So I took 10 minutes to kind of try to explain to him, well, it seems like this is in the range of what would make sense for a gastroenterologist who's doing what you're going to be doing. So, there's a big learning curve. I would encourage them to keep their options open. Don't lock yourself down for too long, and give me or Scott a call. We'll give you some good advice.
Thank you very, very much. Hey, Nick, thank you so much for joining us today on the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. You're about as good a person as they come, so just a pleasure to visit with you. Again, Nicholas Newsad, valuation expert, author of Dr. Deals, just a pleasure. Nick, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Take care.